Hello guys, welcome back to A Page in the Chapter, or welcome if you are new here. My name is Paige and today we are talking about the books that I want to read in the month of May. Now, I did not do amazingly at my April TBR. I have not been doing amazingly at my TBRs this year in general, but I think I'll do a bit better this month, and my reason for that is not only do I have the entire month off work, yes, I have like plans in that month, like it's not going to be just a sit at home month, like I'm going to be travelling and things like that, but still should be easier to do some reading, right? I've also decided to just give up the jig. I think it's time to accept that I am just a romance reader now and stop trying to force myself to read fantasy books that then put me in a slump or I can never finish. And I think I should just admit that I'm a romance reader and read solely romance books this month. So that is like the test. We're going to test it out to see if just solely reading romance books helps me out. I have placed a big order of romance books. Do I have the money to do that, considering I won't be getting paid this month? No. I don't, but I did it anyway, okay? I need the romance in my life. I only want to read romance books. So, with that in mind, we have a slightly different May TBR. If you guys like seeing TBRs and wrap-ups, then do feel free to hit that big red subscribe button down below and stay tuned for future content. I upload twice a week on a Wednesday and a Friday, so there is no shortage of bookish content here for you to enjoy. And I've got some fun content planned out, like I'm actually a little bit excited about some of the videos that I have planned, and I do hope that you guys want to stick around to see those too. You guys can also check me out on Instagram and Twitter at Page in Chapter, so you can see my reviews and what I'm reading in real time, and you don't have to keep waiting monthly for these videos. Just if you're interested, that might be a faster way of seeing what's going to be in these videos. And so without further ado, let's get into the books that I want to read this month. The first book that I would like to read in the month of May, and I will hopefully get read today, is Writers and Lovers by Lily King. This is not my normal type of book, and I wouldn't even say this is really like a romance book, more of a coming of age contemporary type of book. The same kind of genre as like Olive by Emma Gannon. So this follows our main character Casey, and she is getting towards her late 20s, early 30s, and everything in her life is kind of going wrong. Her relationship has just ended. She's mourning the death of her mum, and the book that she has been working on for the past 6 years is just kind of hit a standstill, is not going anywhere. And then she meets these two very different men, Silas and Oscar, and these different men are like polar opposites of each other and show her different aspects of what she wants and what her future could look like in very different ways. And so it's very much about our main character Casey having to find herself and come to terms with what she's actually looking for, and very like coming of age when you're not really a young adult anymore and it's expected that you have your life together. Just like that type of book. I've heard very mixed reviews about this. I feel like people either love it or they hate it. I think it's written in quite a weird way. So I'm really not sure how I will feel about this book, but I'm just in the mood for something a little bit different. This book has been calling to me lately, so I'm willing to give it a go. And then the next book on my TBR is honestly a little bit of a maybe, because I've had this book for a really long time, and it's not really a romance book, but some people like to classify it that way. I just feel like maybe I could read it, but I'm really not sure. It would be helpful if I could stop yawning. And so this next book is It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. Now, I know that this has such a following, has some incredible reviews, like I am well aware that I'm probably missing out by having not read this book yet. But quite frankly, I am scared. This book has many a content warning, many a trigger warning. It's not really a romance book, but it is often marketed that way, so I'm not entirely sure that this is a good book for me. I want to put it on this list anyway. It's a good option. It does have such a big following, and I'm sure that it is very, very good. I think maybe this could get read this month, but it's not really the vibe that I'm going for in terms of the rest of the books on this list, which you will soon see. So I wanted to just kind of talk about this one, get it out of the way early on. I'm really scared of this book, but I want to know what everyone's talking about. So I also feel like I can't be a romance reader without having read at least one Colleen Hoover book. So if I'm gonna make it my whole personality now, I should probably read the classics. So the rest of the books that I would like to share with you haven't actually arrived yet, or I plan on reading them on my Kindle and kind of just buying them when I feel like reading them. I just feel like I don't actually own any books that I want to read, and I do feel like I have made such immense progress getting my physical TBR down in the first few months of this year. Yes, there's some series that I still need to finish. Yes, that is me discounting all of these classics that I have not read, but for the most part, physical TBR looking quite good right now. So I do kind of just plan on only reading new books in the month of May, especially because I'm doing a big genre switch. I'm feeling some type of way about not being a fantasy reader anymore, but it just hasn't been hitting the same for me for like 6 months now at least. So I have already kind of started reading like your classic very popular romance books. Like TikTok was kind of where I went to first, and so I've read The Spanish Love Deception, The Love Hypothesis, The Fine Print, Terms and Conditions. Like I feel like I am getting a good basis of romance books. If any of you have any recommendations for romance books you think that I should read this month, then do please let me know down in the comment section. I will say I don't typically like softer romance books. Like, I don't mind them, but I like my romance books to have some heat to them, to have some spicy scenes. So that's the vibe that we're looking for. So the first book that I feel like will fit what I'm looking for quite well is Twisted Love by Anna Huang. So this is the Twisted series, and I feel like Anna's books are ones that I have kind of seen talked about fairly often. I feel like I have seen them mentioned on Charlotte Ainsley's channel, and so I'm kind of recommended this one a lot. I see her name and her books come up a lot on Bookstagram now that I've started following a lot of romance Bookstagrammers. I'm just seeing these books kind of around, but I don't really know what they're about, or I'm not seeing anyone talk about them in depth. But that just kind of makes me want to read them more, and I like the fact that it's a series. You can kind of, even if you don't love the first one, it's like, okay, maybe I'll prefer the characters or the specific trope that's used in the second one. It's like different in a romance series, you know, to a fantasy one. You don't have to love the first book, or you can even hate the first book and really enjoy the second book. I'm looking at you, Brown Sisters trilogy. So yeah, I just quite like the fact that it's a series. So I feel like this is a little bit of enemies to lovers, but don't quote me on that, because I think if it is enemies, then it's very, very, very soft enemies. But it's very mysterious, icy exterior, grumpy guy falling in love with, whilst has some trauma in her past, is still able to see the good in things, hence why she can see the good in him. I feel like this is a lot of very classic tropes. I have read enough romance books, especially in my younger years reading fanfiction on Wattpad, to kind of know what I like and don't like in a book, to kind of know what tropes to gravitate towards and things like that. So it's not like I'm coming into the genre completely like new with no idea of what I want. So I'm interested to see how this goes. So there is a warning on this book. It says, "This book contains a possessive, morally grey alcohol, explicit sexual content and profanity, no cheating or menage. But if you're looking for a traditionally sweet, lovable hero, this is not the book for you. Recommended for 18+. To be honest, that warning kind of tells me that it's everything that I would want in a book. The only thing that makes me nervous is that Twisted Love is a brother's best friend, opposites attract romance with a hint of suspense. I'm nervous about the suspense aspect. This will be my first like entrance into particularly like darker romances, unless you count Punk 57, which I don't really think is that dark of a romance. So we'll kind of see how I feel about this, if I like the darker, more suspenseful romances. I don't know until I try, and this book does sound like genuinely good and like something I would enjoy, so I do want to give this a go. I'm interested to see what's going on with this book. And then the next 3 books that I would like to ideally read this month, but to be honest it's mostly just the first one that's being on this TBR, but that is the Dirty Air trilogy by Lauren Asher. So I've read Lauren Asher's Dreamland Billionaires books now, all of the ones that are out, which is The Fine Print and Terms and Conditions, but I first heard of Lauren Asher because she has a Formula 1 romance series called the Dirty Air series, the first book being Throttled. Now, I don't know if any of you guys know this about me, but I am an absolutely huge Formula 1 fan, and so I've avoided this book and I've since found out it's a series, because I'm quite worried about the portrayal of Formula One and what if things are wrong, or what if it's kind of portrays this image of women only like Formula One because the drivers are attractive. I've been really nervous to go anywhere near this series, but I've just decided that I'm going to read it, I'm going to vlog my experience of reading all of the books, and I'm going to get back to you on whether it's accurate to Formula One or whether it comes across as a little bit sexist. I will get this information for you. So the first book, Throttled, is very much on my TBR for this month. I don't know if I will get to the other two. I don't want to do like a very strict vlog, I just kind of want to vlog when I do get around to reading them. That type of structure of a vlog. So yeah, I hope you guys are looking forward to that. I know that I am. And I'm actually kind of excited for these books now that I've placed the order, so we'll see how it goes. And so the next book I would like to get to this month is Fool's Boys by Penelope Douglas. This is her latest book. Don't love the title, it's kind of difficult to say, but I'm interested in this book because it follows a little bit of a different structure. This follows like very, very upstanding, I think maybe Christian, virgin, super nice guy of like the male character, and then it's the female character that is like angry and mean and a bully and I think a thief. She might be a thief, I'm not entirely sure. But I essentially saw that Charlotte Ainsley did a reading vlog of this, and honestly I was kind of sold on it. Like, it sounds like really, really fun. I've enjoyed Penelope Douglas's writing a lot in the past, and I just felt like the plotline of this book really intrigued me. I'm intrigued to see this like role reversal of super, super good boy and bad girl and how they interact with each other. Charlotte Ainsley discussed the fact that these conversations around sex and our main character being a virgin were all handled in quite an interesting and forward-thinking way and didn't feel trite and stereotypical and Wattpad-y, so I'm excited, or like very interested, to see what the discussions surrounding that are, and I actually think that it is quite realistic for nowadays. There have been many articles about how teenagers are waiting longer and longer to have sex, and I guess especially with lockdown there wasn't really the opportunity to, so I think it's quite nice to see characters that are reflecting this, and I'm just really intrigued to see how it plays out. I don't know much about the plotline. Going into romance books, I've noticed that I don't care about the plotline, I just care about the characters and the tropes that they use. So the fact that this is Penelope Douglas kind of meant that I didn't have to know much more about the plotline, because I love Punk 57 so much. It's honestly one of my favourite romance books of all time. Fool's Boys is on this list. I'm really hoping to get to it. I've been looking for it in UK stores like every time I go into a bookstore, and they never seem to have it, and the selection of Penelope Douglas books is like, they never seem to have any Penelope Douglas books, so I will just be reading this one on my Kindle because it's too expensive to buy on Amazon and Waterstones don't have it, so Kindle it is. And then the final book that I would like to read this month is Make It Sweet by Kristen Callahan. This just seems like quite a wholesome read, to be honest. We've got some darker romance reads in here, we've got some sporty romance reads in here, and now we have a bit of a wholesome one. So this follows our main character, and she is like famous for being a character on this show, and then that character gets killed off and she loses her job, and then she finds her boyfriend having an affair. So it just all very much goes wrong for our main character, so she decides to run away to this relaxation place. I don't know what it is, but it's in California, and she basically just goes and stays here. She meets this guy at this villa, and she meets this guy whilst at this place, and despite the fact that they're attracted to each other, they ignore each other, avoid each other. And then after they have a little bit of a meeting while skinny dipping, after that he then tries to woo her by sending sweet treats to her door every day. And honestly, it just sounds really wholesome, doesn't it? Like the aspect of this guy sending sweet treats and trying to woo our main character, I just find really adorable, and I would be lying if I said I really wasn't intrigued by the skinny dipping scene. So yeah, I would really like to get to this book. I saw it on Twitter and I don't know, I feel like I could really enjoy it, and I want to give myself decent variety of different tropes and things in this month. It took a while for me to realise that I only enjoyed fantasy books when they had romance elements, and now here I am classing myself. I'm officially declaring myself a romance reader. Yeah, I just want to give myself as much opportunity to try things as possible. It's not like this is the only month I will be reading romance, but I still think variety is good. And so with that is my whole May TBR. I am more excited for this month's TBR than I have been for any month previously. I mean, I was very excited for my Magical Hopathon TBR, but this just, I feel so much more excited to read now that I am reading romance. I'm happy that I've let go of a lot of the prejudices that I held towards the romance genre and can now just happily say that I like reading them, okay? I like reading my silly little romance books with my silly little sex scenes in them, and it makes me happy. This is quite a big TBR for me, but I tend to read romance very, very quickly and I have the time off from work, and I just have very high hopes for this month. As I said before, if you guys could leave some romance book recommendations or trope recommendations or just anything to really help me out with this transition into romance, that would be super, super helpful. To be honest, even if you have like fantasy romance recommendations, that would be good too, because I don't want to like swear off the fantasy genre. I would greatly appreciate that. If you guys enjoyed seeing this TBR and you would like to see how I do in the future, then do please feel free to hit that big red subscribe button down below and stay tuned for future content. I upload twice a week on a Wednesday and a Friday, so there is no shortage of bookish content here for you to enjoy. I hope you guys are having a fantastic week, you are enjoying everything that you are reading, and there are no reading slumps in your future. And I will see you for my next video. Bye guys.